Welcome to episode 34 of the Slow is Fast RC podcast. Joining us today is Mike and I's regional manager, Mr. Tekno for the Northeast, Mr. Mike Lopes. Thank you for joining us. We are going to get into things and stuff, things about him, and all that jazz. Was that a sneeze, Mike, or do you want to talk? I'll let you
No,
talk. I'm not like.
no, go
Oh,
ahead.
we got two mics. I gotta.
No, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me on.
we're gonna roll the intro.
Disclaimer. You're about to listen/watch a podcast hosted by a group of friends who tend to use vulgar language and profanity, and also enjoy pounding adult beverages. Viewer discretion is advised. Lastly, we may be making some bold statements. All views and statements made in this podcast do not reflect the views of any sponsors, guests, followers, or any supporters of this podcast. So be cool and don't get offended. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoy.
RC racing is boring to watch.
So I wanted to start out asking a whole bunch of questions that are non-RC related. Blondes or brunettes?
Take the win! Aiden in the two spot! A last turn!
Oh, that's Davey. Oh, goodbye. Back from the thing we play at the beginning. Anyways, let's dive right into it. Where do we want to begin?
Mike, where are you even located at?
Michigan, Southeast Michigan.
Okay.
Kind of born and raised here. Lived down south for some of my time to kind of stay out of trouble through middle school and high school, and then moved back. So yeah, Michigan.
What's your local RC track?
Local is Larry's Performance RC. They're mainly 10 scale, but just a ginormous shop, good folks. It's kind of been the grassroots for many, a lot of up and coming fast folks, even folks that are there now. But that's my local track. It's mainly turf. There's some on road there. And then what I would call my home track is about an hour and a half south in Toledo at Tarkar.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the E Scale outdoor track, which is just it's a really nice facility. So they've been putting a lot of effort and work into that there. So that's kind of my A Scale home track there. Yeah. Yep.
Do you like running 10 scale? Do you at all,
I
Mike?
did. I do. I do. I was having fun with it, and I could hold my own. I just took a few years off to really focus on 8 scale. The last maybe 3-4 years now. I would say easily. I forget. Everything kind of gets lost. During the pandemic, you kind of lose some years there because everything kind of got merged in together. But yeah. So I was thinking about maybe getting a two-wheel and building it and playing around a little bit again. I race direct at Larry's every Tuesday for several years now. So these guys are always on me to try to, I don't know, run with them here and there. So yeah.
Now, when you say get a two-wheel and build it, what two-wheel would you get? Or is there something secretive in the pipeline at all that we should be aware of? No.
There's nothing secretive in the pipeline.
Okay.
Fortunately we can kind of have our pick at a two-wheel if we want to run two-wheel.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Ben Ellis with AKA and Horizon, that's kind of one of my managers. So I could choose what I want, but I would probably run an elite. I would probably run a low C.
Yeah.
There's some young up and comers that are really hooking them up and making them work. Some fast folks. So that's probably what I would do.
Yeah. Honestly, they're all pretty good anymore. All the top brands.
Yeah, that new Losi looks like a really good car too. I mean,
Actually, for the first time, I finally got to see one in the wild yesterday.
In the wild.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nobody had them really at our local tracks, and now, one of our locals, Rob, he signed back with Horizon this year, and he had the new Losi stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a handful of dudes really making them look good. I mean, it's carpet. I don't hate carpet. I'm not against it. I have nothing against it. Really, I don't. I mean, it's stadium racing at its finest. What we call stadium racing, it was whether it's turf, carpet, it's indoor, right? But these guys are making them look pretty doggone good. So, and like many of these young folks and pros, you can pretty much put a Tonka truck in their hand and they could wheel it around me. So, yeah.
So how'd you get
Not
started
not
in
just you, all
RC?
of us.
Well, yeah.
So.
Take us to the very beginning, Mike. How'd you get started in RC and all that?
Yeah, so I'll use a Bert Kreischer joke. Back when grunge was around, that was about that era. I think it was maybe 94, 95, 90, early 90s. I lived in an apartment. Um, and yeah, there's a hobby shop, JJ's, that was just like kind of around the corner, kind of behind me in a way. So I went in there and checked it out, and back then it was a lot on road. That's where I began, is on road. They built some off road tracks, but back then it was mainly on road. So yeah, so that was about 90. I'm thinking then maybe 93. Like I said, grunge was hot and heavy then, so that's about right. Yeah, I think my first class was F1 actually at Tamiya 103, and so I liked F1 back then, and back then there wasn't a whole lot, right? So it was kind of everything was evolving. I think beginning to evolve quite a bit. So yeah.
How did it transition forward from there after F1?
So yeah, so I took a break off. I had two boys. After a handful of years, right? I tried 12 scale, and we did like some spec stuff. We would run stadium, or not stadium yet, but I took a break with the kids. Came back, and it was like I was it was like having a biplane flying that around, and then when I came back, everything was like F-15 because everything was NICAD and all that jazz back then. And came back, and I was like, I'm gonna get into this hobby again, and I bought an on-road touring car and lipos, and didn't know anything about it yet, and it was kind of bonkers. There was a lot to learn. I felt like I lost a lot after several years. And that's kind of what got me to an off-road. And that was at Larry's Performance, which was, Larry's kind of ran JJ, so he's kind of the same guy. And they would set up tracks indoor on carpet, sometimes on multiple surfaces, like corked rubber and all that. And that was when the SCT-10 came out, right? And that was my first off-road vehicle. And we ran those indoors forever, and we would have several heats of those things. I mean, it was nuts, but it was fun. So kind of where that went. And then I, again, had the kids and whatnot, came back and slowly got into the off road. Basically, that's it in a nutshell. Yeah, did a lot of 10 scale first. Wasn't really big in 8 scale yet. I ran for Team Durango for a while, back when Lutz was on board. So we went through that kind of equipment for a while. Stuck with them for a while until they pretty much kind of closed that down, closed shop. But I had an 8 scale then. That was one of my first 8 scale. Was a Dingo. I ran a lot of short course bus. I love it. I still do. I just need to make time to do it. That's if you're rocking with the right people, it's racing. It's really some good racing. I think I like it most because it's scale looking,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Where I started and kind of where I'm at now. Yeah. So
There's a few pockets within PA that you go with the short course truck. It's just people of equal skill level. There will be a whole bunch of them.
mm,
And I just absolutely love doing it. The two other guys here on the podcast, if we all know we're going to run a short course truck, it's always a great time.
Mm-hmm.
There's
yeah, it was.
something about it.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree.
If you come back to the
like
cancer race, you'll have to make sure you have a short course or a rent a ride or something. Come race.
Was thinking about building one. I kind of asked Uncle Mike, a couple questions. I had a kit, didn't have time for it, and I gave it to somebody in need out west. So yeah, I was thinking about getting one. A couple guys were supposed to build one. One guy kind of I think had to bail. A lot of stuff going on, but I'm thinking about building one to throw down. I only have so much time at the track, but I'd really enjoy it
Mm-hmm.
because dude, your guys' trucks. They look so fun at LCRC at the
That was
cancer.
a
I mean, it was.
blast.
And I was actually in awe that they were SLs, initially, because I'm like, man, they got these things working really good, flying really well. I mean, they looked really good. So
I was
yeah,
initially shocked too because I thought that the point two would have been the better of them, being on just
Yeah.
such a big track open. You think the big open, the bigger shocks, all that would just handle the jumps and stuff better. But the first time I seen an SL start going around handling the outdoor stuff, I was blown away. It just seems to take the beating, and it glides and flies pretty well, especially when you try to send it a little bit too much over a triple, right, Alex?
Yeah, it doesn't
Um,
like wrecking on really big jumps.
Yeah.
That's not
You're
the
probably
car's
not
fault. That's
supposed to go
operator
for the
error.
triple, but
Right.
Yeah,
it
lawn darting
does
the triple is
some-
not admirable with
Yeah.
that car.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed like LCRC, for example. I'll touch on them later too as well. I mean, if you guys don't mind, but I noticed the jumps weren't massive. Like they it was actually nothing wrong. It was perfect. But they just had a little lower, smaller scale jumps, and I think it suited the 10 scale stuff really well there.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people go to these large tracks, even like Tarkar's got some huge jumps and whatnot, and you get the parachute effect and whatnot. And it becomes where it's like, is this fun? If you're rolling, 2/3 of the jumps, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, or whatnot. But I think there's some places that really, I don't know. It seems like they welcome short course quite a bit, and there's always a few heats or classes where the races I go to too. At Tarkar, so it's a great class. It really is. It's no hillbilly class to me. That's for sure. So, and if it is, I would still be down.
Yeah.
So, right.
What's your thoughts on the whole 8 scale short course that started to get a little bit of traction the beginning of last summer?
I was kind of intrigued, let's just say, for a minute or two, and then I'm like, well, we need tires and whatnot to support it. Something that would really work, right? It's not just, I don't know, I guess cobbling something together, if you will, right? But I think it had some potential. Um, for sure, for at some of the larger tracks, like these huge elements.
Yeah.
I think that's where that would come into play more. Um, but yeah, I think it was kind of a flash in the pan, and I don't really know where that's really gone, or where it's taken. Where they taken it.
I
Seemed just
I like the idea of doing the 8 scale buggy tires on them personally. Like, I get it, it's not realistic and it's not short course looking, but like we already have them, and that's one less whole tire bag I need to bring
Yeah,
personally.
yeah, yeah. that is pretty rad. That's a good point. Even like with mini truggy, not to change the subject, but you have dudes that run mini truggy and they can slap on short course
Yeah.
stuff. With a run short course, so it does help. Your average Joe or whatever. You don't have to have a million tire options, but
Mhm.
I thought it was pretty rad. My buddy Kyle built no, he didn't build a nitro. What was it? Chris, I think, built a
Yeah, Chris
nitro.
Pierre did.
Chris
Yeah,
did.
Pierre.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
never, I think I saw it run like outdoor for a second, but that would have been maybe even at, maybe they had it at PMB too,
Yeah, they
out
brought
for a
it to
couple laps.
PMB,
Mhm.
and
But it looked pretty cool. I'm not
yeah.
gonna, I'm not gonna lie, it did.
Yeah, he
So
let me drive it. We went to Browns beginning of last season. He let me drive it, and it was just a blast. It was awesome.
was it pretty? I mean, was it pretty good though? Like
Oh, it
overall,
didn't feel
like
like a short course. Like, it felt like an 8 scale. You know what I mean? And that was like
yeah,
probably the first time I ever drove a nitro car too. And I mean, the setup wasn't perfect on it, but whatever. Like, it could be. And like Chris even admitted that. He's like, I haven't put time into the setup, so like it's not gonna be the cat's ass with handling, but just driving it and throwing it around, like it felt like I was driving an e-buggy or a truggy, like other than the nitro part. But
yeah, yeah. I don't know, Uncle Mike. That's I mean, it's a fair question. I it seemed like it was really getting a lot of momentum, like a lot of interest, and I think if they threw something out there, I'm sure there would be a market for it. I do know for a fact that there's still quite a bit of high sales on short course itself,
mm-hmm.
on four course kits. So it's a class. I mean, it's obviously there's a lot of bashers or just the dudes running them at the tracks, and that's okay too. But
It was just like an
we'll see.
hour ago, my local track, somebody was asking what they should get for their first car or something to show up at the track. And this is like an indoor high grip clay. And majority of our answers are just get a 4-wheel drive short course truck. It's an
Nice.
easy beginner multi-use type vehicle compared to, get a 2-wheel drive buggy or something like that right off the bat. A lot of
Yeah,
times we suggest get a 4-wheel drive short course truck for your first vehicle.
yeah, I think that's a good call, and I think it's still, regardless whether it's 4-wheeler or not. It makes you drive it, right? You can't push it, and I think that it's good for learning.
Mhm.
So yeah, it'll take some licks too as well. So yeah, I agree with that. It's a good call. Yep. Yeah, I miss me some bus. So we'll see. I'd like to maybe build one. I still got a lot of my parts and stuff for my EVs. Or I'm sorry, my 410s, my mini 410s buggies that I have left that I can use too. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe I will show up with one. That's why I asked for Uncle Mike's setup. I says, I promise I won't use it against you. but that was just for 2025. So we'll see.
I got 4
it
short
is what
courses
it
on the
is.
wall back there. If worse comes to worse, so like we can definitely hook
I've
up
got
and rent a
2,
ride.
one over there and one over there.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It in the end, it's closed wheel racing. You know, we might just punt each other around the track. I don't care. It's fun.
That's most of the fun.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is. I think people look at that, and I think it's a misinterpretation because that's racing. There is racing. You're going door to door, fender to fender. I think it actually allows you to be a little more comfortable when you're racing against those things because you're not going to typically get caught up in tires and roll. I mean, I don't know. I hope to see that class grow, and again, it's always at the big races, so that's not an issue. But short course is still alive. That's always my saying is just keep it alive. So yeah,
it's definitely alive and well at a hobby level for sure.
Mhm.
National
Yeah.
level, not so much, but hobby level, and then the tracks local in PA, kind of New York type, Virginia, Maryland areas, and it's pretty popular. So
yeah,
Yeah, I don't see it ever becoming like coming back to P&B or like I don't ever see the pros getting a hold of one and that being a thing. Once in a while,
yeah.
sure, like Invitational they were running them, the couple of the pros that went, but
But did they actually remove that class from P&B?
yeah, it's not a P&B.
Yeah.
It hasn't been there for
Yeah.
a few
Oh.
years, I don't think.
I haven't paid
Yeah.
attention to it. I just remember Ryan going there and running all 5, and short course was one
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah,
You know?
why they removed it, I don't know, but
did they even
Yeah.
keep it for the Roar E-Nets when they mixed the E-Nets and Fuel Nets last year?
Ooh, I don't think.
That's a good
'Cause that
question.
was-
I don't know if they moved that to maybe 10th scale nats. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe they did.
I don't know if it was kludged in together. I don't think it was. No, I don't believe it was. We'll have to look that up. Went up though. But your last, one of your teammates, Nathaniel Bentley, he won the last title at PNB for 4-wheel short course.
Oh, yeah?
So we'll
Oh,
brag
nice.
with one of our what is now fellow Tekno drivers. So that was he won it. I think he was busting out sprinters. He was using sprinters or whatever on that there, and it was a pretty dominating performance, that's for sure. So
Well,
yeah,
Tekno's like the only one to make a 4-wheel drive short course now, right? Other than that one company has like a full carbon fiber thing. I forget who it is, but
Is it WIRC? I think they came out with an 8 skill
yeah,
kit.
they have an
I
8-scale
don't think they
one.
make a 10th skill.
I think PR has one.
Yeah, PR
Yeah,
has
PR
that
is
full
the
carbon
carbon one.
fiber one.
Yeah.
But I mean,
okay.
Tekno. I'm not saying PR isn't reputable, but like Tekno's.
I mean, when it
the
comes to short
one.
course, Tekno is the name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
since TLR
Yeah.
discontinued their race
Well
version,
said.
and so got the market cornered there.
Yeah,
I mean, shit, at LCRC when we had 16 short courses, I think all of them but maybe 1 or 2 were Tekno.
Yeah,
Yeah. Of all different flavors.
I mean that typically is the trend when you have some good onside fellas running it, some good trackside support, and all that, and they're just tanks regardless. So
Mhm.
that also helps. Yeah, I miss it. I ran that's when I went to events, like when State Line was still around and Kevin's track and all that. I would just run a 4-wheel short course and typically mod wheeler and outdoors. That was 4-wheel short course was the jam. So I was all in. It was it took me a couple years to get smart and really not put too much into the paint jobs because the bodies just get trashed, whether you trash them or somebody else is caving them in. It's
Yep.
just kind of I don't know. I props to you if you're coming out with a killer paint scheme on a short course, but man, they take a pounding. So I don't think it's worth it. I don't. So
You guys want to move on from short course as much as we love it?
I don't know. I say we
Yeah.
talk the next 3 hours strictly on short course.
yeah, that's fine. That'll work
Probably
for me.
could.
I mean, We can move on, but yeah. So maybe I'll
What
show up with one.
what started the flame for 8 scale outdoors for you, Mike?
Um, it's just something different, there was a couple tracks. So in Michigan, I guess just a long story, longer is, we used to have a handful of tracks here, and a few of them closed down. We had one up in Okemos, and we had a track down in Carlton as well. These are all 8 scale tracks. Premier Place is actually the track in Carlton is and was one of my favorite places to go race. So it was just getting exposed to that, going there, showing up with the bus and running that and saying, it's time. At the time, Durango was coming out with their new DEX stuff, their new range and that kind of pushed me to get into it really. So it was pivot ball. It was really the only pivot ball I've ever had, but that's kind of what got me into it, changing it up a little bit. So yeah. Yeah. And since then, I've just basically been focusing on that the last handful of years, though I really did just kind of went there. Just electric. I've never driven a nitro buggy. I'm gonna confess
What?
to this. I still have never. I've turned it down a handful of times because I know I'm gonna love it. I just it's the time that I don't have that you need really. It is a class that you have to put a lot of time into. There's a lot of variables, a lot of heartbreak, but yeah. So I kind of stay away from nitro, and I like the pitting aspect of my team guys. I really like that. I like pitting and whatnot. So that's kind of my duty in a sense. So, but that's kind of what sparked me on 8 scale. Back to your question, Taylor. So,
So what's your
just
favorite class right now?
I would definitely say e-buggy
Okay.
for sure,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I still run the 40 over. I actually last year I didn't really run any 40 over until I showed up at maybe a couple of like bigger races. Just have more time pitting and all that. So, but I'll run as much e-buggy as I can. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then now to go into the whole techno thing. So
Yes.
what's your official title, Mike?
I'm a mid East region team manager, regional team
And
manager.
what region does that cover?
So that encompasses Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it's like the little nook right in the little Rust Belt,
Yeah.
So
That's quite a few people though, too, to keep
yeah,
track of.
yeah. We have I wouldn't say it's a large team for under me. But we have a great team. So
Mhm.
we have some good folks on our team. Got a couple new signs this year that are been around for a little bit. So yeah, we keep it not small, but it's solid. So yeah, yeah.
Do you try to travel around to a lot of the tracks that some of the teammates and stuff that are racing at, or?
I do. I,
Yeah.
I, I didn't do a great job up till this point, till this year, getting to LCRC. We'll touch on that again later, but I do. I try to. And yeah, I haven't made it my as far as Kentucky yet, but I do try to get around. But it's mainly Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. But I do need to kind of get out east because again, it's like family. Family from family, just family away from home, just home away from home. So the LCRC experience was just awesome. I just didn't have enough time, really. That was my
Mhm.
only biggest thing. I felt like I needed more time, just to hang out there and hang out with people. But yeah, so
Out
try
of
to get
all these
around.
track, out of all these tracks that you travel to, Mike, what's your favorite one?
Does it have to be Does it have to be a permanent track or a temporary build?
Ooh.
Uh, Tell us any. I'd like to hear
Um,
all your input.
I like Raven Arena. I like what Mark Moon's doing. I like his events. The North Georgia Shootout is phenomenal. And even Peach State Classics. So those are both held there. It's a haul for me, but that's actually hands down my favorite place to go race so far. Yeah, they do a really good job, and it's a nice race. The North Georgia Shootout's a little bit lower, smaller, like lower signups or entries or whatnot, but it's still pretty large. It's just not massive, but they put on a great track there. You're in a bowl. You're surrounded by the Smoky Mountains. You got a nice downtown area. It's almost like an oasis. It's really bizarre, but that's my favorite place. Yeah. I think the problem I have is like 12 hours drive, but other than that, it's all right. But Tarkar is still a local fave of mine. The crew there, Steve, the owner, the crew. I mean, I could name everybody. They put in a lot of time and effort to give us a place to race. It's been around for decades. I think Drake was even, when he lived here, I think he used to race there back in his early days. But it's an old school place, and yeah, I'd say that's one of my faves. Yeah,
The, let's say
permanent tracks.
track wise, I know you mentioned Tarkar, Sandpit. That's a different track, but still kind of local to you, right?
Yeah. Sandpit's it's actually further. It's kind of like central, south central Michigan. And they used to have an outdoor track. Sean doesn't run it too much now. It's just a lot of time and energy. He runs motos out there, but they have an indoor dome, and that is our place to race in the winter. And if it weren't for Sandpit, we wouldn't have a place to really go race hay scale. And they'll have up to 10 to 12 to 14 heats, depending on the race, the day. They have a series. They're all winter electric and a nitro series on alternating weeks. So that's a good place. Wiggins shows up there every now and then. A lot of the like the local guys, like you'll see the likes of Dakota and some people show up and test there and all that. So that's our indoor winter place to race. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. But yeah, the Raven Arena, dude, North Georgia Shootout, I think is one of my favorite races to go to. It's typically I think in April. Yeah. So
I think that race you were mentioning how it's on the lower side of entry counts for big races, but it seems like to me it's been growing too at the same time. I think definitely if they keep putting in the work, it's going to be one of the bigger races to go to each year, just up there with the race time events.
I agree. The Peach State's a little bit bigger, it commands more, but the North Georgia Shootout, I mean, there's well over 300 and something entries, and um, not to go on it to it forever, but they again, Mark does and his crew do a great job. The sponsors chip in. I've chipped in stuff. People just chip in stuff, throw in stuff to give the junior racers and that. I mean, the prizes galore that they're passing out at the end. It's just phenomenal. I mean, it's they're just a class act. So yeah, that's my only beef is I don't live closer. So yeah, yep. Those are my favorite places. Yep.
Alex, Mike, you got anything before I keep going?
I can go. So how'd you get hooked on techno? What drug you into
Yeah,
that?
a short course, but we've already been there.
Let's circle back.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
So
a scheme.
yeah. So, but I just it was intriguing. It was good. I know they put a lot of effort into that. Obviously Daniel and Natty's, the good with the veterans and that, and it was I wouldn't consider it wasn't like a smaller company at the time, but I kind of like taking the road less traveled, and it wasn't a very popular, I'm sure it wasn't the top premier chassis back then, but I just like, I don't know, it wasn't an underdog ever either. They know what they're doing there for sure. But I think that's what really attracted me. It's just something a little bit new, and different. Yeah, just everything about them, just beefiness, just the whole 9 yards. So that's kind of what kind of drew me to that. We were running at RC Clubhouse, and it was probably one of the best indoor tracks back in the day, indoor clay, hands down, and probably this side of the Mississippi. And that's what a lot of folks said that traveled there, and they would get well over close to 400 entries at big races and stuff. And yeah, we'd throw down in there, and it was a blast. I just ended up getting a short course then. Back then, there was a lot of tricks and mods you had to do to them, Uncle Mike, if you remember, to make them fly right and all that. I mean, because they were kind of relatively new still. But that's kind of what got me into techno was the bus and just the company itself and what they're about, really. So they were still kind of fairly new. So yeah.
So when did you first get signed on to them?
I think that was about 9 years ago.
Okay.
It was about 9 years back. If I had to, I believe so. Thinking it was either 18. I don't know. I forget. I lose track, dude. I'm 52 now. I'm old. I don't feel old, but I guess I am. It's catching up to me. But yeah, so it's been a good run. I wouldn't have any. I wouldn't change it for the world. I really wouldn't. So,
How'd you find?
I've had 3 managers, by the
Mhm.
way, just in that span though. So, yeah. So, and yeah, Mr. Bill was the last. Mr. Bourdon was my last manager.
Mhm.
So yeah, and he passed the torch on. So yeah, it's been a good run. That's for sure.
So speaking on managers, how'd you find your way into the Mid East manager spot?
So yeah, I mean, it was a kind of a it was an odd one, not an odd one, I will say, but there was a couple people that were in the hat, um, that were potentially going to be asked to do it, and I guess one of my counter drivers and whatnot said I was the best fit, and that's when Bill, and gave me a call. I think I was traveling. I was down in Orlando at the time doing some integrated parking stuff or whatever, some business, some work, stuff that pays the bills. And yeah, he gave me a call and asked me if I was interested. So it took me a couple days to kind of say, is this what I want to do? I'm a racer at heart. I still can hang. I think I can still throw down pretty good. And I was like, well, am I going to be okay with this? Am I good with this? And yeah, so that's kind of what brought me into it. So yeah, Bill offered me the position, and I accepted the assistant role the year before last. So last year was the first kind of year as RTM for me.
Okay. And
Yeah.
to carry on, this is my last question for now. Carry on with the manager thing, because I
Mhm.
say all the time to like my friends when I tell them like I RC race and I got a podcast and like it's my thing. I always make the joke like I swear I spend more times doing things that are RC car related, whether it's filming podcasts, editing, announcing, working on cars. I spend more time doing that than I do at my 9 to 5 every day. So as a team manager, do you feel that way? How much do you feel you are doing team manager duties?
Yeah, so I that's obviously a great question. But the first thing I thought of, I'm like, am I going to be at peace being a manager, right? And knowing that I'm going to put some of my stuff aside to focus on the team, right? And Tekno, right? Like be a little more, holistic, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at peace with that. I actually last year was surprised. I didn't surprise myself, but I was very happy because I look at team first. Again, I'm older now, so maybe that's the mentality. Um, but I don't think I do really, because whether you're hardcore racer or not, you're still putting in that time. I think the guys on the squad are very well spoken. They're good around the track. Um, we get a lot of compliments. We definitely get some emails. For our guys, they help anybody. Around there. So they kind of they're a great supporting cast, if you will. You know what I mean? It's kind of like everything kind of handles itself. You know what I mean? If it's well oiled. So but yeah, it's not a massive amount of hours really. The contract season this was the first time I kind of winged it, not winged it, but did it myself, and it was actually pretty good. I was on top of it. I do read all the race reports. I do every word of them, and I'd like to see more of them, but I do read everything. I think the time that I spend, Alex, is just keeping up on Facebook, and looking on Live RC because I'm watching. I know what everybody's doing, because I can't be everywhere at once, but
Right.
I do. I try to be supportive, and yeah, I try to keep an open book. I want people to come to me if they have issues or need any help or anything. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a massive amount of time. My wife is super rad. She's very cool and supports what I do. So we've been together since '93 as well. So yeah, she's my she's my backbone in a sense. So
Awesome.
Can I piggyback off that before I cut you off, Alex? Is that all right?
Yeah, I have a piggyback too, so we'll just
Okay.
climb on each other's shoulders.
Mike, before Alex hops on my shoulders, so two things off that. You touched on race reports. So one, and also the sponsorships. Could you let us in the audience know what makes somebody selected for a sponsorship through Tekno? Like, what are you looking for? And then two, also, I want to know what you're looking for after somebody's sponsored. And then what's kind of like the minimum? And then what would you really like to see more than the minimum once somebody's sponsored?
Yeah. So I definitely like to see somebody that's, obviously confident. Whether their online presence is massive, or they don't like Facebook, that's really not a showstopper, right? Um, but in the end, when they're putting in work and they're getting around, right, and they're traveling around, meeting people, and racing at new places and just supporting other tracks, even, right? I mean, in essence, that's what you're doing when you're traveling around. You're seeing where you stack up against other talent, and we have loads of talent in the Mid East, Midwest. I call it Mid East because it's a techno term, but we have tons of talent. But I look at I definitely look at some race frequency, where they're racing. I do look at their online presence, if they're helping out folks or chiming in, on the techno owners group or things like that. I do. I look at where they've been. I do factor in age. Um, so yeah, there's a few variables there, I guess, is what I would say. Um, but I look at where they've been. I like loyal. I'm a loyalty kind of guy. I'm old school, right? I do feel that while when you receive a sponsorship, right, you're getting some support, and for folks, that's well needed. Obviously financially, right? It's not inexpensive to do this hobby, right? Especially tires, but in a nutshell, um, I do like to see loyalty, right? I like to see them trying the stuff out first, not just hopping around, every other month or something to a different chassis or whatever. At the same time, that's a double-edged sword, right? I could have a debate with myself right now, because if you're not tied or not under contract, you kind of have a right, or you can go run what you want. But I look at it from a loyalty perspective too, a little bit. I want somebody that really, really believes in their technos, and it fits them. They're just not hopping out to test it, to test the waters, right? So, but that's really it, in a nutshell. Yeah, and obviously references. You know, I get about 30 or so that I had no clue about this year, that I was used for references for other sponsor for companies I didn't even know about either, and I was like, wow, that's surprising, but that's it in a nutshell. I don't know if that explained it, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And then once somebody is sponsored by Tekno and they're under your guidance or
yeah.
leadership, what do you like to see from them? And what's kind of like the standard? And then what's kind of what you would really like to see people start doing, whether they're making their own YouTube channels, doing their own builds, maybe starting their own podcasts, such as these two fellas here,
Yeah.
things like that, that really goes above and beyond.
Yeah, that's bonus. That's big time, right? I mean, the marketing perspective, I really didn't touch on too much, but the marketing is a big thing, right? But you're marketing your, not only the companies you rep, you are marketing yourself, right? I mean, everybody loves recognition, and if they tell you otherwise, they're not really being too truthful to you. Um, but once you're on the team and whatnot, there's a couple guys this year that I signed, and I've leading up to this, I've been talking to them like, don't change a thing, don't change anything, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't add any extra stress to you, right? I mean, so I think some people can take that the wrong way and start putting extra loads on their shoulders, like, oh my God, I got to go out and perform now. I got to do this and this, and it may be something that they weren't doing, when they signed, right? It was maybe above their capabilities at the time, but I want to see them to grow, obviously as a person around the track, be helpful. Obviously getting faster. I want them to be open and really just kind of jumping up, when somebody has a question on the team or whatnot, and just being helpful, right? Speed and results are obviously, a big fraction of that. We want to see good results. We do get great results from our drivers, though, right? When you're getting signed, you're pretty doggone fast at this point in time. But that's what I typically like to see. Just you getting around, racing, challenging yourself more than just clubbing. Obviously, it takes more than just being a club racer. But just getting around and challenging yourself, meeting folks, just having a nice, good track presence there, right? So, and obviously just running our stuff, and giving feedback. I don't think we get enough feedback sometimes. I'll ask for it, and we're not pros. We're not the ones that are developing it like Wiggins and Mayfield and those guys. But the feedback's a gift, negative and positive. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, right? So
That
and
definitely
obviously
helps
great
make a
chemistry.
brand.
Yeah, and obviously great chemistry. There's not typically anybody in the team that's just everybody's it's a good mesh. So yeah. Yeah, but results are obviously one thing, but just having fun, and that's I'm gonna sound like I'm my old like AYSO soccer coach when I coach soccer. You gotta have fun. Your teammate, you guys, Cash. He is the epitome of having fun at any race. I don't care if he's having just a bad day, and we all have bad days. He'll have fun. He'll make it fun somehow. Yeah. So Cash, I think, is a great model for any young up and comer. Right. Bill signed him. And I was like, I completely agree. We are kind of going through contracts, back then, and he gets it. He's kind of an old soul in a way, but that's kind of what I'd like to see too. Right. Just you're not so serious to where you're not having fun. Right. Because what are we doing this for?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
100%. The
Yeah,
Slowest Fast podcast is huge supporters of both Chris and Cash, Peary.
so
Rock on, guys.
I think that kind of sums it up, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Alex, I'm ready for you to hop on my shoulders.
Okay, here we go. Okay, my piggyback.
Yep.
My piggyback is I think this is a great question to ask for the people that are perhaps newly sponsored or even team managers or people that have been sponsored for a while. What is one thing that your drivers could do for you to make your life easier, whether it's with race reports or because I know you were saying about how you try to keep up with everyone and try to help out, like, so you're trying to watch on live time or like whether it's on Facebook, like, could you get like a heads up notice of where they're racing, or like what is something like I could do to help your life be easier as a manager?
That's a fair question. That's a good question. I would
Mike?
say that's actually a good point. Yeah, you let me know where you're going to racing. So Alex and Uncle Mike know that I started I have like a group, that we have all of our teams. I'd like to kind of use that as like, hey, this is where we're at this weekend. I did set up a Google calendar. Maybe I'll try to stand that up again to kind of plug in where you're going to be. It's nice to know, but that would be that would be huge. Just because I'll see a result 3 days later, like a race at adrenaline or something. It's like, oh, that's cool, or whatever. But yeah, that would be good to know. I'd say that would help out. If you're on the squad, you're typically doing what you need to be doing. You know what I mean. So, like I said, I'm kind of like I'm a big fan of just don't change a thing, just keep plugging away and keep killing it, right? That's what our guys do. They do really well. Uncle Mike, I seen a lot of people approaching him at LCRC. For questions, whether it's part support, whatever. I mean, so that's kind of the stuff I like to see. I'd like to hear that a little bit more too, Alex. Like when you help people, it's not bragging or anything, but it's good to know, right? I mean, in the end, it's good to hear. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear like the good stories, and they're not all good, right? You could have the crummiest day, but there's got to be some glass half full stuff at the track,
Of course.
So.
All right,
Yeah,
that was it.
before you started talking, Mike, I was going to mention that you had the calendar last year. I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah. Need to stand that up, right? Anybody can create like a spreadsheet. It's just keeping it up, or anybody can create something. But I think keeping it up is upkeep is worthy. So, yeah.
Real quick, I gotta go call my dad back real quick. So, Uncle Mike, your turn for questions.
Oh man,
What's the temp there? While you're thinking,
Oh.
what's the temp there? Is it crazy cold there too?
it's not too bad. It's 21 right now.
Yeah, it was a
It's
little warmer
10
today.
here.
Yeah, it's gonna make
Yeah.
30 degrees feel warm. I can't wait. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah, starting tomorrow here, it's getting down to -1 and then staying, under 20 for the next 7 days.
Can I ask a question real quick while you're
Yeah.
Mike? Mike, I'll do a sidebar. while you're
Good.
thinking or whatever. So what do you know about the Beast East? Did they have a full program? I know the weather was sketchy. Obviously, the conditions out there were bad. Did they end up having a full race?
They
Taylor?
completed the race, yes, but it was
Okay.
cut short. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, like Alex and I were watching the mains the other night. We were watching Cash, do his thing. But yeah, yeah, from what Alex told me, their entry count was low because of the storm compared
Yeah.
to last year, of course. But I mean, justifiably. And then they
Yeah.
cut it short because of weather. But
I believe they
Okay.
pushed it ahead like a day. Like they started having their mains Friday, or I believe.
Okay. That's why I missed some of it then. Okay.
And I think total entry or total driver count was like right around 100. Not counting entries, but total drivers was like either 80 or like 105, somewhere around that area roughly, without like looking up the actual data. So they were able to kind of push the program ahead like an extra day.
Right
Get rid
on.
of, yeah, which is
As a
great.
safety thing.
At least
Yeah.
they got it on, and then whoever was down there and had a long trip could start it before today, and then
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Again, I get it. So I saw a lot of comments. Just folks like, yeah, this is too sketchy. So yeah, if if you're not comfy with driving on the roads. I mean, they don't salt there. I don't think if I don't think they salt roads there anymore. I mean, at all. They use sand, if anything. If they do anything, that's what they did down south. They really just put sand on it and it just turned the ice dark. That's all it did is just make it dirty looking. Didn't really help much. So
you can't even see the ice because it matches the road.
right. So yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
What's your favorite event to go to of all of them? Is that just the same with the track there, Mike? The down there?
Peach State Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Man, SIC is pretty doggone fun. I've been to that a couple times now. I may get a wild hair and try to drive down there in a couple days. We'll see. I don't know. I'm a guy like that's last minute sometimes, but yeah, I would say SIC or North Georgia Shootout.
Yeah.
No, Peach State's right there, but it's North Georgia Shootout or SIC for sure. Yeah, it's just good to get a break from here in the cold. I think it's just because of the time of the year. So yeah.
Mike, I know
Yep.
we've talked before, but when you go out west, what are your thoughts about racing out west compared to out this way?
I haven't. I really haven't ran out west yet.
Oh, I
So
thought you, because you were
no.
talking about what's it called in Vegas?
So yeah, no, I
Silver
was supposed
State.
to go to I was supposed to go to Silver State. That kind of I kind of had a curveball kind of thrown at me, or the theme of this show may be short course, so maybe we just stick with it, or have an old podcast just about short course. I don't know, but no, the incident with me getting hit with the short course kind of sidetracked a lot of stuff. I could have went. I was cleared to go, but I didn't go. I think it was the right call. Had some other family stuff going on, and it's probably maybe it was just a blessing in disguise. So I didn't end up going. Joey worked with me, gave me a rain check for my entries and stuff, which was really rad. So um, yeah, so haven't been there yet. It's on the bucket list. Matt's like, dude, if you're DNC, I want to go to, but I would sit around. I don't run nitro a lot, right? I would sit around a lot, but it's more about just hanging out, experience. But Matt was like, dude, Silver State's a guarantee, right? It's indoor. If you're traveling out west, you're gonna race for sure. So I'm putting it on the calendar for next year though, Mike. So
I was gonna say they moved DNC later into the year now, so
did they?
it's more they put it I forget what month it is, but yeah, they moved it later for better weather.
Because it was like end of like spring kind of like it's always been kind of like on the cusp out there, like just really sketchy
Wasn't it?
weather.
I thought it
Wasn't
was
it
I thought it
always
was
like
the end of
February?
February because
Yeah,
It was
because it
Motorama.
always
It's mixed up
Yeah.
Motorama for us, and then as soon as they moved DNC, all the pros now
Yeah.
come to Motorama.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was
I
always
guess
the
it's
first one of
almost
the year, pretty much, before they moved Silver
yeah.
State.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I remember the year I went, it was snowing here, and it was 80 degrees in Arizona.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what the schedule is going to look like next year after everybody's kind of sorted everything out. Obviously, Silver State was changed. That's what he had to work with. Obviously, Dave they made some adjustments with SIC and all that. So I'd like to maybe see what it does overall, with the factories and sending the pro drivers here and there. If there's going to be some different dates, obviously, because SIC was always beginning of the year. That was kind of like the 8 scale,
That was the opener.
CRs. Yeah, it was almost always the annual
It was like
opener of
Daytona
A scale.
500, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we'll see about that. But no, I'll get out west, Mike. I do. I wanna meet some folks face to face. I like to meet folks face to face, and I do. I want to battle against some of these dudes that are fast and see where I stack up. Still, I still can get it. So go out there and just get punished too. I mean, LCRC was no different. I got there, showed up. I know what to do next time. But yeah, that's how it goes. You go to the first race. You do a lot of recon. You're getting a lot of good intel, hopefully, and then go back with like, okay, then you have expectations, kind of thing. A little more expectations, if you will. So, but maybe you
So
can go
what's
next year, Mike, with me. We'll see.
That would be nice. That'd be fun.
so what's the newest right now Tekno buggy?
2-2.
That's it. The 2-2 still. Yep.
The 2.2. If somebody was to go out and get a Tekno 2.2, what would you tell them to do? Is there any tips, tricks, things like that you would tell them to hop on right away to do?
That's a tough one. That's a tough question. It's really not it's not that hard of a question, but it's tough because
Yeah.
um
This is more for
I
your
do
beginner
believe
that
no,
wants to buy their first Tekno. I asked Lee Sutzer that on the last one for Sparko, and
yeah.
then kind of like to help direct like the newbies that don't know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I mean that by you don't need a lot. It's
Mhm.
like it's true. When we were we had a meeting and the kit setup is truly a feature of the kit itself. You don't typically I don't think I've ever really heard somebody say the box setup is a feature in itself, right? The box setup is pretty doggone good, right? I wouldn't tell them to do a whole lot, right? I mean the typical servo horn and maybe some sway bar collar holders and you know probably some pistons, if you will, and a couple of options of springs, and you're pretty much well on your way. I mean, you don't even have to do that. The kits, the yellows work all the way around. They work well. The kit itself is pretty doggone good, really is. And
There, the,
I,
there's
I,
one thing. Yeah, there's one thing I would recommend out of the box. It's the only thing you need to do because now they even include the aluminum servo horn. You don't have to buy one
Oh,
anymore.
oh, you get the
nice.
steel one or
The
whatever they. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
it's metal. It's
It's
great. It
not
works.
it's
I
not the
prefer.
clamping one, but
Yeah, I prefer the clamping one, so I bought the optional one just for the
Yeah.
extra security. But the only thing that I would do out of the box, you don't have to buy anything, but put the front pistons in the rear and the rear in the front. Just flop what the
Yeah,
book says
slipping
with
them.
the shocks,
Yeah,
and
and
just
got really, didn't really get into that kind of setup stuff, but yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I tried that.
that's it.
I kind of went back to old school way. We definitely did a lot of different things, or people were trying so many things. Mike, I did leave my
Yeah,
truggy like that though with the flip stuff. So,
yeah.
but from a need standpoint, Taylor, it's not a whole lot. Really, it isn't. Maybe a couple options with springs, and that's about it. Sway bars are always kind of a plus too. That's one of the first things I try to tune with at a track is sway bars.
mm,
So
On the subject of springs, are you guys on the buggy still running the really short springs?
that is, yeah, they are. There are folks that are running short springs. I kind of went back to the longer stuff. Like in the high bite stuff, I'll go back. I'm kind of torn between what I'm getting from that, like how it feels. Um, when you're under heavy braking, and what it does, and as far as the travel for the shocks and all that. I mean, you can look at it so many different directions and ways. Everybody's probably got their own opinion on it too. But yeah, but folks, there's tons of folks still running the short springs themselves. Yeah, and obviously
What
with the short shocks, that whole thing that's going on right now, folks testing with that everybody's well aware of that now. It's well aware of that. So that's also one of the points of the short springs too, with the short towers and all that jazz. So
what is the overall goal for the people that don't know? that are trying to gain with the shorter springs, shorter shocks, all that?
I don't have much of a theory on that, Uncle Mike. To be honest with you, um, I don't know. As far as what they want to extract from this, Taylor, I don't really know. I don't really know on that one.
Do you want to
Don't really
touch
have
on
a
that,
whole lot
Mike?
of.
From what I've collected, it's more of a high bite scenario thing when it comes to the shocks.
Yeah.
To where it's conditions not a lot of us will ever run on, but from what they've said, from what I've heard and read, is that it still works fine in all conditions, most conditions. And the bumpy stuff, it still needs messed with because bumpy's always hard for any car. Um, but yeah, is it an advantage? I don't think anybody really knows yet.
I
I guess
personally,
that's. Go ahead. I'm
I was
sorry
just
about
gonna
that.
say, out of the people like I've talked to that are running it, I personally haven't heard anyone say they don't like it, but I also haven't heard anyone say, "Oh my goodness, like I noticed such a difference. You have to do this." Like I really only think you're getting the lower CG, which I think is going to help everywhere. And like Mike said, on the bumpy tracks, you are going to lose some travel, so I can see that hurting. But yeah,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, I maybe didn't answer that correctly initially, but I've tried on high bite. I could tell just like if it's like you're a switchback or a 180 corner and it's got like a little, like a little dimple or a little roller or whatnot. It kind of gives and tries to kick out and whatnot. It has its own little tendencies, if you will, on it when you're on down travel and kind of going over like a corner maybe that's got some issues or some elements on it itself. But yeah, that's the only time I really tried it. It was at Sandpit. Sandpit's very high bite. Um, I just went back to the longer spring. Not saying it doesn't work. It does. I mean, it suits certain people. I just last year I took a big step in not getting deep into the weeds and sticking to basic stuff that I kind of know, like that I'm comfortable with. So I didn't really get too deep into that one. I tried a short pack forever too. I tried a short pack with the Tekno forever, and I gave it its fair shake, and I ended up going back to the long pack. Just for an example. I mean, like it was great, but it felt really nimble in that, but it's way more balanced with the full stick. So I just kind of got out of the weeds, if you will, on that note.
Let's bring it back into the weeds if you don't mind, Mike, and let's go really
Yeah.
deep in them.
Okay.
So you help quite a few people on the team with their setups and stuff, I imagine. What are some really obscure things that you've seen far left from everyone else is doing that sometimes works for people?
Hmm. You know, I think. I have to think about that one for a second. Jeez. Because there's so much stuff everybody's trying, right? I mean, I could get into
Yeah,
like the three gear, the two gears, and the
throw it
tips,
all out
and
there. Yeah,
all
throw.
you know.
That was kind of like
Man,
a big thing with you guys for a long time. Are people still hopping on the 2 gear, 3 gear diff combos, or are they all
they're,
back to 4 gear now? Or
they're kind of some are sticking. I think many are kind of drifting away from that. I even tried the three gear all the way around, and I liked it. I run it. I ran some thicker. Was running the thicker fluid, obviously, and it was at Sandpit, and it was pretty good. Actually, I ran it most of the summer too.
what did you
Um, I
notice?
I, I just felt the car just was a little more responsive in the cornering and whatnot. It just felt a little more nimble. Like Techno's got so much just grip and steering to begin with, right? Um, I would say it was a little more on edge as far as on power and stuff through like cornering and that you could tell, but overall, I just felt it just had it's really bizarre. Like it had almost like a 10 scale wheeler feel to it. It just gave it a different feel to the car, to the heavy car, right? Um, obviously it boils down to running thicker fluid. You get away with running some really heavier fluid, but at the same time, it just had a really really good feel, some good bite, really good bite to it. So I wasn't blowing anything up or burning anything up. I didn't really ever notice any issues with it, but you had to maintain them quite a little bit more though. Seemed like they burn up that oil pretty a lot quicker. So But I would say, like in the weeds, it's we have a wizard on our team, Mr. Wiggins, and he tests and tries so many different things. Right, it's hard to keep up with what some of these guys are doing. But I think the flipping the pistons around and whatnot, I think that was a big thing, and it's good. I think back at SIC a couple years ago, Mayfield was running super soft front end and springs, like pinks on fronts, and I think he's the one that kind of started a lot of this. Maybe the just checking it out and trying to get comfortable with the car himself. I may be completely wrong, but I think that's one of the things that people are still sticking with is the flip pistons. Again, I don't have to do it in my buggy, but I do in my truggy. So I think that's the biggest thing. Pistons. Yeah.
Say what, when it came to the Pistons, I know Alex and I run the VRP stuff.
Yep.
We've been really liking that. I know
Mhm.
Tebow kind of started. No, I mean Tebow carries them, he sells them, but going off of his guidance for what he's tested, I think he came up with a pretty good
Mm-hmm.
starting point for anyone,
Is that those 20
which is
holes, Mike?
nice. Yeah, like it depends on how you have the shocks mounted on the arms.
Yeah.
So even though like the space on the arm is like, 2 or 3 mil apart, it makes a really big difference in how the shock acts.
Of course.
So so like you shouldn't. Oh, I mean, I ran the 20 holes with the shocks laid down, and the car generated way too much pack. It would not go through a bumpy section. It would just rock. You know what I mean? So, but when it's on the inside of the arm, it's fine. So yeah, it's either the 6 hole or the 20 hole, depending on how I have the shock set up on the car. But
Yeah. I ran the 6 hole split in the e-buggy. I mean, when I put that kit together, like I got it early. It was before, just before it was launched or whatever, and I ran it all summer kit just to prove a point. Like how would I do with this kit? And I actually had some very 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 good results with it overall. So I didn't do a lot to the first EV, like the 2.2, for a while, right? And I just went with it. Obviously they've changed it. They got the fatter washer underneath the kit pistons now. Back then, yeah, I think it was a split. What was it? Maybe the four. What did the kit come with, Uncle Mike?
4 holes.
It come with 4 hole.
yeah, 4 hole. Yeah,
One
Yeah,
5 and 1 6, I think. Or 1 5
yeah,
and
and
1
it
6.
was pretty good. I just made it a point to try it and see if I liked it, and it did. It was good. I'm like, all right, I want to see if this kit setup is one of the features, and it was. So but yeah, I would say the pistons are the big thing, Taylor. Lately, people are just trying so much stuff. So
it is.
Now
hard to
the
keep with.
direction of track going, some of them going to high grip stuff. Is Tekno trying to design cars that are meant more for high grip compared to the United States low grip? Or what would you say their goal is? Obviously, everyone wants one that works on everything, but sometimes it's hard to sell a kit that's just ready to go on everything.
yeah. So I haven't heard anything crazy, or anything groundbreaking that they're doing differently. Other than just trying to, like obviously you see the folks checking out the wide pivot, right? Running the wide pivot now, on the car, shorter arms, wider pivots, and that's nothing that's public. People spoke about it. So I don't really know if that's the case, right? How many races do they do internationally, right? I have an international team. I did it. I think the car's good. Do I see them looking towards that and going that direction? I do, as see some of these larger events take place overseas, and Mayfield and those guys going out there and racing. I'm sure they're definitely talking about that, in the lab per se. What's an option? I've seen people cobble and modify their cars and try to make them better and with saddle packs, and that was a couple years back. They were doing like a saddle pack mod on the Tekno, and um, I think it's basically okay. What's the globally, holistically, what's the track? What is the surface we're running on? What's do you tune your car for 80% of the track or 20%, of the track itself? Kind of goes along with, what major events, how many are there? I guess Thornhill was pretty. It was, I think, the closest thing that's compared to, like, where they go in Spain and race. I think that service was probably the closest that we
From
have here.
from what I
Uh,
heard, they're still like way off from each other. Renovon in Spain is still way higher. From what I heard, the guys that did both.
yeah.
So that's
So
crazy to think about.
But
yeah.
yeah,
So
I
I
think
go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
I was
Sorry
gonna
about
say
that.
well, we had just had the talk with Lee Sutzer. He was talking about the Renovon. He was saying Renovon is significantly higher traction than even
Thornhill.
Thornhill. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't do anything in the hopper necessarily, Taylor. That's
Mhm.
that they're um, working towards, but I'm sure it's being done. So I would have to imagine it's being looked at and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I can tell you that the kits have come a long way in the last handful of years. Uncle Mike would probably attest to that. Um, we've come a long way, and we really, really have a good car. So, like, anything else is just kind of bonus right now. It's almost getting to the point. It's like, let's okay, we got new stuff. Cool. I mean, my car's pretty good. Like, you show up to a race or whatever. If you don't have a day to test, sometimes I know this is a fact. People are like, yeah, I didn't have time to try that. Man, my car's so good. Do I want to try it? Right. And yeah, you just got to get out there and try it for yourself, I guess, if you will. Put the time in to test, and if you have that luxury, right? But I've been in that too. Like, man, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to try this really, but I will. So that's getting back to that. That's where it's at. But I tried the wide pivot stuff, by the way. And
Is that something you'd suggest to most people? Like, what were your thoughts about it, Mike?
I I thought the car was. It almost felt like it was like an I'm sorry, a slot car. Like, throughout the whole damn turn. It was just so into the track, like, throughout the whole. I didn't have to squirt it to get the tail end to come around, the rear end to come around in a tight corner. It was just grip and rip. You know what I mean? It's a golf term, but it was really just 100% through the turns, handled great. Um, I noticed the difference. It's hard to explain, and everybody kind of, I think, validated that online. It's like it was just ultra good throughout the entire corner. It was just super stable, felt good. You could really get after it. You didn't have to kind of either baby it and it was push, or again, you'd have to squirt it to get the rear end to come around. It was just really, really good. I didn't try the short shocks or the short towers. I said, I'm not changing a bunch of stuff. And I did. I ran one qualifier, and then I switched the rear clip out, threw it all back together. I kind of eyeballed it as far as shocks and where I mounted them and all that, but um, it was noticeably different. It was noticeably different and better. Some dudes didn't get to try it ultimately because I got hurt, but they were like, "I want to drive your car after the race." It was looking pretty good, and it felt really good. So yeah, so just the wide pivot alone it felt like a very um, definitely a positive, if you will. So
So, grip and
yeah.
rip's a golf term, did
It
you say?
is.
I
Rip and
didn't know
rip.
that because it was always a weightlifting term to me. I never knew that was a golf thing too.
Was
That's
it?
funny.
It's a weightlifting term too?
I
Nice.
mean, it could be
Rip it.
both.
Thought it
Who
was
Grip
a
and
knows?
rip it.
I thought
That's
it
what
was a
it is.
term
Yep.
for lonely men.
Possibly. I wouldn't know.
Well, I would.
But but yeah, I did like it. Sometimes it's hard to articulate how it feels, but the best thing to do is, try it for yourself sometimes, and some people may not like it. I don't think it felt out of sorts. It wasn't too much to control. It was perfect. So maybe some upcoming, things that changes and things you're hearing about, or it's again, it's just going to make the car only better. So we're really heading in the right direction, in my opinion.
Who came
Sometimes
up with
everything.
that? Was that like
Uh,
a Wiggins thing that he came up with, or?
I do not know. I don't know where that stemmed from. I didn't ask. I didn't ask. So
Yeah.
that's maybe shame on me. But in the end, it's the same. You know, the arms and whatnot are the same. Obviously, there's the 2.0. That's what you're using or whatnot. So again, it's just a wider pivot. And I just had some blocks from my Truggy, extra spare blocks. I always have spares on me for me or people typically, you know. But I gave it a whirl and I did like it.
I
So,
got a quick question on the wide pivot because I did it, and I never ran the 2.0 car. I went from point 0.3 straight to 2.2, but I noticed how with the 2.0, how on the end of the arms where the hubs go, how they have their own inserts there to adjust hub height. But then on the 2.2, we can adjust hub height with the hubs themselves. So I
yeah.
don't know if you know or even if you can answer, but I heard Tekno's working on a whole kit to do this rather than dremeling old parts. Is that insert on the end of the arm gonna be a thing, or are they just not gonna have that since it's already on the hub?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's just going to be a standard arm. There's not going to be any insert like the 2.0 stuff.
Gotcha.
If I remember right, that wasn't you adjusted it on the arm and not the hub on the 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, you know, there was, yeah, we had pills galore on that car, but
Yeah, there was. Yeah,
I
When
did
you
have to
guys are
gnarl
doing
my.
that, oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry, Mike. Nope, you go.
No, I was just saying. I remember like putting the thing together, the track on the fly, scrambling. You know, I'm like, you know, and I put my wheels on, and my AKA wheels were like clipping. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
support or whatnot. They were rubbing on the arms themselves. So I forgot to sand the ends of those off. There was a little meat I had to take off in the ends of those because they were rubbing on the wheels some. So it wasn't. I don't think it was a brutal. It's not a terrible hard mod, you know, to
No.
do. But it was worth it though. But, you
Yeah.
know.
I just used the 6 millimeter hexes, the wide hexes from the Truggy on mine, rather than dremeling the end of the arms. I didn't even think of dremeling the end of the arms, but
Yeah. So you made your car wider.
well, I from what I heard, it's supposed to be like the same. Whether or not, I don't know. I didn't sit there with a tape measure. It doesn't look any wider, but it feels sweet.
Yeah. But, uh, but,
When you guys
but yeah,
put the C and D blocks from the Truggy on, are you changing the pills to make them even wider themselves, or if you're running like anti-squat, do you just put it back to the same pill settings as they were before in the C and D block, or?
uh, I forget what I put. Yeah, nothing crazy there. I think I was maybe down and out on the C and then center in the D, if I'm not mistaken. But nothing crazy there. Nothing crazy. Too much there on that note.
I know I was center on the C and D, up and down, but for adrenaline because it's tight, I was no toe or whatever the lowest toe setting on the rear is. So dot out C block, dot in D block.
Yeah, I was down and out. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So you
So it
get the
all
full
works out
effect
the math.
just by the C and D, and then you just do whatever you want kind of with the pills from there and tune it.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like to
Yeah.
me as well.
Okay.
You know, not everything translates. I think a lot of folks be like, we need the setup. You know, it's like you guys all know this that your setup doesn't work for everybody. That's just how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. I'm not. I love to try new things and new stuff, but I don't often just go throw somebody's setup on my car and try it. I'm not being stubborn, or I'm not saying it's good to do. I'm not saying anything against it, but I just don't. I don't really change a whole bunch. I kind of know where my baseline is and where I need to be, what I'm comfortable with. If you change too much stuff, you guys get it right. Next, you're scrambling. You don't know what you did wrong. You
You
keep it
tune
simple.
yourself out of the ballpark, is
Mm-hmm.
what I say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I see that as a very common mistake with folks, and they're just into it, right? And that's cool. Like they want to tinker, So, but that's often the case here.
That's a lead up to my next question I was already going to ask you, Mike, is how many times do you get a question of what is Mayfield's setup or Van Dalen's or Wiggins setup? from somebody that wants to know that probably shouldn't be driving like them at all? And then what are your suggestions for people like that?
I don't get a lot of the questions about from the pro setups really. Sometimes the questions will be like, what are they doing? Are they trying anything new or this or that or springs, or but nothing too bizarre. And I think myself and amongst many, um, if it's a new driver or somebody, it's like just you kind of want to go with the box setup. The box setup, they're not really too far off. They're it works. It's really good, right? Our stuff, our box setups have always been pretty doggone solid. I don't know if Uncle Mike would attest to that or not, but that's what we kind of say. That's what I say. Keep it simple. Stick with the box, and if you want to try some other stuff like kick up and some different stuff like or anti squat, sorry, things like that, then slowly get into it. But I just think sometimes throwing so much stuff at people, the retention is not often there because they're just it's like it's a handful if you really start getting deep into it. So it can be I don't know, and sometimes it can be discouraging for somebody if they do all this and they're not faster. You're right, they're looking for some magic, you know, sheet, if you will. I don't think that's the case. I do typically say, hey, it doesn't mean that you're going to like it or it's going to work for you because these guys drive their stuff really hard. It's so.
Then on the opposite end, I'll ask one more question and then I'll let these guys go. How far off are some of the top pros? Are they like the three that I just mentioned? I say Mayfield, Seth, and
Yeah,
Jared Wiggins are definitely like in the top of the game of the world right now.
yeah.
How far off are their three cars from each other?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they do just definitely try some different stuff, right? From you'll see on some setups that they do release or whatnot. Um, the different gearboxes, like somebody will use a zero. There's some different stuff. They're running. The point I guess I'm getting at is, um, right now that I'm aware of, they're trying a lot of different stuff. Um, I wouldn't say there's tons of consistency, but there's just so different that's really why you're not seeing a lot of setup sheets. Even like just as of lately, just to trying so much stuff, right? They were trying diffs for a while, and then the springs, short shocks now, and I think that's where we're at. I think you're going to see some nice setups coming out soon. I just think they're trying so much different stuff, right? As you guys know, I mean that I know, like Seth could be so different as far as diff oil compared to Mayfield. What they're running, it's like thousands different, right? I mean it's a big difference. So I guess that's where they're at, and I think that's why there's questions every now and then, like, hey, we haven't seen a setup for a while. When's one coming, or do they have one? It's like, yeah, they're just tinkering still, right? So but not a lot has changed. But then again, we don't know completely the whole story of that because they're always testing and tuning new stuff out there west too. So you know. But that's what I have with that one. It's kind of a tough one, a tough question,
Yeah.
if you will. But I don't really get that question a lot. Like I think Wiggins hands down. I believe I beat Wiggins once in short course once maybe back in the day when his mom used to drop him off at leisure hours. But
Still counts. Still counts.
but but he does, man. He puts so much effort. That I mean, I kind of knew he was gonna be something and go places. Um, what a good dude, and he is selfless. He gives so much information out. I think hands down he's one of the best at it. Out of any pro, I not even being techno biased because that guy will hop into chats or I'm sorry, like on Facebook or whatever, and you'll see him answering people like 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. and on whatever questions. So he does share a lot of setups and stuff that he's doing. That's one great quality about Wiggins, aside from his great results and whatnot. So he's just always there in sharing information. So yeah,
And it's funny too. He won't just write a sentence. It'll be like a paragraph.
he tells you
You know?
why. He's just not telling you
Yeah.
what to do. He's telling you why, and I think that's super
Yeah.
key with people. Taylor and to the crew there. I think it's it's one thing to say, just go do this. It's like, do this and then let me know what you think. You may feel this or this. Try this. So that goes a long way because it gets people thinking. So
Even when it comes down to like if you're trying to help like someone you just met or one of your buddies trying to make their car faster or whatever, more comfortable, I always ask the question. Like I don't like I'll look at like I'll watch someone if I'm helping them, and I'll watch their car, and before I say anything, I ask them, okay, what did you think? How did it feel? Did it feel loose, tight? How did it feel in this section? Because I want to hear what they think, because I know I when just when the Pieris were down at Beast of the East, I was watching Cash on Friday race his first round. I think it was Nitro, and I texted Chris. I'm like, his car looks terrible. And then Chris texted me back. He's like, well, he burned like 100 cc more of fuel than he ever does in a 5 minute qualifier. He'd never let off the gas. That's why. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they didn't make any changes, and the rest of the race day he was dialed. So stuff like that.
that's fun.
But
Yeah. Yeah, but Taylor, hopefully that answered your question.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tough, but no, I think obviously you have to always they're always trying so much stuff. I- Again, I don't if I ask questions, if I reach out to somebody, I'm sure I'd get here and there. I like to leave those guys alone because I know what's coming out and what we're getting, and on the next releases and stuff that it just works. It's gonna work. Well, I don't think we've taken a step backwards. So that's the goal, right? So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the direction they're heading.
well, on that note, we're gonna roll a quick commercial to support our friends down at ACS Hobbies, and then when we come back, we will branch away from the techno specific talk and get into a little more RC as a whole talk. So until then, here's our friends down at ACS.
So, how do you hobby? At ACS Hobbies, we've got everything to fuel your passion and spark your creativity. Whether you're into RC cars, model trains, boats, or planes, we have a huge selection of kits, parts, and accessories. Need paints or tools? We've got you covered. Test your skills on our RC crawler course or race on our oval track. There's always something fun to do. Plus, discover an awesome range of games for all ages. ACS Hobbies is your ultimate destination for hobby enthusiasts. Visit us today and start building your next adventure.
All right.
Yep.
And we're back. Now, my first question, Mr. Lopes, you led on to it a little bit earlier, and I know we talked before about going into this, but I want to dive into some marshaling stuff because
Yeah.
I know you're just gonna have a whole bunch to say, and I'm sure we all have things we can add on. And like the biggest thing I want to point
Yeah.
out first is, marshaling is obviously the civic unwritten duty of RC, and it's kind of funny that there's like there's no Adam Drake video on how to marshal. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like picking on Adam Drake, but I'm just you know Adam and Tebow and Wiggins. So many people have videos on how to build your shocks, diffs, things to help, but no one does the thing we all have to do. And I'm not saying someone doing that would be better, but there's like no instruction to the newer people or to anyone really on good ways to marshal and more specifically good ways to stay safe doing it. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Lopes,
Yeah.
go ahead, run with it.
Yeah, so there isn't a guide for marshaling. But if it were up to me, even at the local track, I do a lot of coaching. Like, hey, it's their fault for wrecking. You've heard that cliche, but at the same time, I think there's value in when you have young and up and comers. Um, you can only keep their attention so much that when they're in their youth, young kids, right? I'm a dad, I know, but I think in this hobby in this industry, when you're at the track, I think that you need to have your daughter or your son along your side when you're marshaling to coach them to do this to teach them. I think there needs to be a little bit more involvement when the younger kids are involved in the sport and starting to marshal and getting the tips and standing next to the excuse me, an adult, even at big races, right? I think there should even be some volunteers when they're helping out to just to show some young folks what's up. I think I think the big races, obviously, that's really tough to do. I think it boils down to, your home tracks, your club racing. That's really when to drive it home. When I'm race directing, I do do a lot of coaching. I also tell people marshal how you want to be marshaled, at the same time. Um, but I guess I'll get into it. There is a point in time where, again, you have to learn, you have to watch. I just think you have to be engaged and involved, and I think you need to push some of the younger folks to do that. That it's just not okay. You race, go run around and jam and have fun. There's tons of time to have fun, but I think there's definitely some learning opportunities and moments. You're at a track for a long time. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to coach people, right? Even if they're 40 years old and just starting a hobby, right? There is a science to it. You get to the point where you can see somebody when they're going to wreck, and you can actually be already off your stool or your bucket or already running towards a car before they even wreck. They're going to wreck, right? Um, but on that along that line, um, you know, yeah, I just got clobbered in the head. I heard that I was not in the line. I was kind of in a neutral zone area. I turned around and got smashed in the head. It knocked me out. It was pretty bad, brain bleed and all that. The guy did it, felt super bad. I was very lucky, very fortunate. But I think with that, I've reflected. I haven't posted it yet because I didn't want to write with emotions. I didn't want to write something down like super quick and just be like passionate. But it's frustrating. Obviously, there's frustrations involved and whatnot. But I think there's a couple elements, right? I think there is a responsibility from the driver perspective on marshaling. I know you're not marshaling, but when you're the driver, right? You have peripheral vision. You're not blind. You can see if there's some activity or commotion on a track, right? When you're driving around doing a lap, you're not on a huge track where you just don't see something. It's just there. Sometimes it's a bang bang, but typically you have vision. You can see people running around on the track, right? And I think there's some onus on drivers. Me too, me included. Um, the, just a disclaimer: I race direct, so the director can't see everything, right? You guys know this for a fact. They can't catch everything on the track. They don't see everything. It's just a side piece there. Just want to take that and park that. But I think as a driver, if you're seeing commotion or activity on the track, you definitely need to like roll it, slow down, take caution. I don't see that happening a lot. I think we're getting away from this. I think it's becoming a little bit of an issue. I just happen to be that guy, and I'm a veteran. I consider myself super aware on the track, always aware, super quick. Um, you know, it happened to me, and I couldn't believe it. Right, I'm still kind of recovering, but I can't believe it, you guys. I have a Gary Busey eye left over from it, but I can't believe it happened to me, but it did. So from a driver perspective, I think we need to maybe whether it's race, your drivers meetings and whatnot, you need to just have some statements or a little more firm, like, hey guys, when we say caution or caution, if we happen to see it, great. But as a driver, I think you need to be responsible. You're wheeling around a 10-pound vehicle or whatever. Most of the vehicles weigh 8 pounds, um, and in the end, you can cause some severe damage to somebody if you're not paying attention, right? Um, you know and also as the racer itself, I hear a lot of yelling and chatter and hollering at marshals, let's go. um if you're a driver up in the stand, I encourage you not to get loud. If you got to whistle or shout, if you're sitting upside down, so be it. It's your fault for wrecking, I get it. But I think I know I see a lot of folks, drivers, like hollering at the marshals, getting them to want to, to get after them, and that's rushing them. And next thing you know, you have people not looking or running out, and that's not what this is about, right? You kind of wrecked, you got to take your medicine. So I think there's a couple different perspectives to this, you guys, right? As a driver, you are accountable. You should be responsible for wheeling your truck around. Is it not everything's your fault, but or your vehicle? Sorry, it's a truck, but you kind of got to be aware of your surroundings. You're on the track. I'm 52. I can see, like, if if you see bodies, you may be driving on the left side of the track, but you can see some commotion out of your peripherals, or if you're slowly approaching, right? So I think there's that piece. And again, as a marshal, you just can't let that driver or somebody rush you or try to urge you to get out to them as fast as you can, or if they're hollering, because I see that a lot, even in Tuesday nights when I call racing, I hear drivers, and I try to say, hey, 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 nope. And I'll commend them on good marshal jobs when I see good stuff. If they have to wait, then so be it. But it's a good topic. I could go on and on, but I think there's accountability on both sides, right? You definitely have to be fair, safe, and quick as you can. Marshal how you want to be marshaled, but don't put yourself in jeopardy at the same time. And as a driver, I think, again, if you're out of sorts and you're going to hit a jump or something and you're off, there you can roll jumps. I think that a lot of people don't realize you can roll jumps to play it safe or not to wreck, right? I mean, that's how it goes. So I think it takes something big, they're bad, bad to happen sometimes for people to realize, oh crap, what we do is dangerous, and we do dangerous things. Like these cars are flying and super fast, super high. And I've had numerous people tell me from tracks owners, like, I'm surprised this hasn't happened before. I mean, we've had people get their ankles clipped and stuff like that. But I think it's a topic that safety, it should be talked about more. So that's kind of like my piece on that. Um, I don't know how you guys are, but when you're driving, I mean, would you agree that you can see kind of what's happening on the track if you're even remotely even near that section or not? You can see like activity, and commotion. So
It,
that's
in my opinion, if you can't in your tunnel vision, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You
yeah,
can't be a tunnel vision driver.
yeah.
Like not only for for the safety of everyone around you, but for
Mhm.
your own race program. If you can't see what's happening in front of you, then if there's a wreck, you're gonna hit them every single
Yeah,
time, unless you're lucky.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And like with to go to put my race director hat on. Um, I think the race director also plays, and a lot of people don't understand this, like plays a vital role in safety of the whole race. Um,
Yep.
so there is a lot of responsibility put on the race director, and like you said, Mike, race director's not gonna. I guarantee you, 100% of the time, the race director will not catch everything. You know, every race, the race director is gonna miss something, no matter who it is. I don't care if it's Scotty. I don't care if it's Lance. I don't care who it is. They're gonna miss something because it's a big track
Yeah.
and only one pair of eyes. But beyond that, when the race director does catch something, whether it's a big pile up and they're calling it out, marshals are on the track, and they're telling people to slow down, a lot of people not only get tunnel vision with their eyes, but whether it's nitro or just electric or they got a headphone in, whatever their routine is, they aren't paying attention to what the race director's saying. And
Yeah.
that just needs to change completely for every reason. But I mean, a lot of times when I do catch something and I'll call it out, like, hey, roll this or watch over in the sweeper,
Yep.
watch, we got a marshal in the sweeper, and people fly by and narrowly miss the marshal. Thankfully, they miss them, but it's like, just check up a little bit. Like, and
Yeah.
I mean, I know I try to watch and I have slowed down or rolled if there's a marshal coming by. I've locked up the brakes because maybe a marshal didn't
Yep.
look first to see I was coming around and went to marshal. I'm not hitting someone. Like, I don't care if he didn't look. And there's also been times that I was tunnel vision. I'm not saying I'm perfect. There's definitely been times I had tunnel vision
Yep.
and maybe I clipped someone's foot or narrowly missed someone. That's happened before, but that's on me, not the marshal.
Yeah.
But
Yep. Yeah, it's tough. It's a
There's,
tough call, right? It's like, it's the chicken and the egg. It's like, okay, but I think there's some accountability for everybody, and you gotta be serious about it. Sometimes just things get lost, right? And all the and all that. And but it's I just seen it getting carried away. Like, I've been at some big races and I'm like, wow, and you can clearly see when somebody doesn't lift, or they don't
mm-hmm.
lift, and it's very sketchy or dangerous, and it can happen. It happened to me, and I mean, I appreciate you letting me talk about it. This isn't a self pity or like feel bad about me, but it does hit home because I do direct, I do race, and I do marshal. And I thought I was pretty doggone good at all of them, but it happened to me. I just I just think if I was to send a message out, it would start with the drivers. Just be, try to be more aware. We're, most of us, 90 something percent of us aren't going to miss the mortgage payment, or not be able to buy groceries if we don't win or lose a position for being safe or something like that. You know what I mean? So there's not like it's the end of the world, right? If we roll something, or be cautious, and for the marshals there, just don't let anybody rush you. Not that I was, but and you're not safe no matter where you're at in the track. You definitely want to make sure your head's on a swivel. But I would just say that's the biggest thing. It's like a three-piece pie, right? It's a little bit of directing. You can't see everything, but I think it's just a topic that it's just reminders are needed, if you will. Some awareness. So yeah, it's sketchy, man. It didn't feel good, that's for sure.
Yeah, it didn't look good.
So, but yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up, and I also think that, I mean, I've given feedback's a gift. I've given feedback to people that built tracks, like, yeah, this is cool and all, but how are you going to marshal that?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to marshal this? This is like sketchy, I mean, don't even get me going on crossovers and stuff like that, but you also, it's tough to build a track that's actually safe, and it's actually, I mean, marshable is not even a word, but but you can marshal it with being safe, right? Where you're gonna have, people exposed in the middle of, like, just some high speed sections with cars flying over your head and stuff. So I think that's also just a big part, right? So I noticed that LCRC, though, the layout there, like, um they were all pretty safe spots. I look at, when I go to a track, I look at all that stuff, by the way. I look everywhere, like,
Mhm.
for just that kind of stuff, the whole 9 yards. So, but yeah, that's my piece on that. So
Taylor?
yeah.
I don't have anything else to touch on that.
Okay.
Pretty
It
well
can
said.
happen. It can happen, and it's like I said, we just hate to see it happen to some young kid or somebody that's, can't take care of themselves, or it could always be a worse situation. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always the case, right? When you're, in your rough housing around when you're young and stuff, and you guys were fine, right? Nobody'd say anything. The adults didn't give a care, but as soon as somebody got hurt, oh my God, everybody was in trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh shit. Oh. Anyway, so yeah, that's
So
that.
it's all fun and games till someone breaks an arm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, martial lives matter. That's how I'd like to wrap up that conversation. And
Yeah,
we need to, as a community, we need to see if we can figure out something to just do better as a whole.
just
And
awareness.
every set of hat, whether you're the driver, the race director, the marshal, whatever shoes you're wearing at that time, it's a team effort to make sure everyone's safe and having fun.
Yeah, yeah. Just I'll be posting something soon. I just didn't want to post it emotionally, and that just to bring awareness. It's written. I just wanted to post it when the time was right, at the beginning of the year, and it's already almost February. So yeah, so that's that. But ultimately, though, you know, we are very fortunate to do this hobby. Even for the new people, you can tell we all mean well. Nobody's out going out there with bad intentions, but in the end, we are family. And when somebody, gets hurt or whatnot, it kind of impacts everybody. We
Mm-hmm.
all give a care about each other, no matter what team they're on, or who they are. So yeah, you guys are killing it on the podcast, but you guys are already realizing. I mean, you already knew, it's RC family is a really, really good family to be part of. So
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We're extremely lucky in the Northeast too, I feel like.
Yeah, we got a great group of racers up here, and I mean, I only use this area because I've never been a part of another group of racers, but I'm sure it's the same everywhere else. Everyone just fits in.
No, we're better. We're better than you, and we know it. I'm just joking.
I think it'd be pretty rad. Like, not a pro race, but a Joe race, right? And have, like, all your regions representative, like, and, like, see how you stack up against the Southeast versus the Northeast versus the Midwest versus the West, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Absolutely.
South, right? Um,
Like a
I
team race,
I've
kind
always
of. Yeah.
told, I've always told people, like, our area, our region, right, is pretty stacked. Like you guys, it's no different. You go to a what you call maybe a club race or a race like the Flashpoint race or whatever. You're battling against some fast dudes. You're going there knowing you're typically going to get your butt kicked. It's just that good. It's stats. So
Like, for example,
not- not-
Gavin Vucina. He's from the Pittsburgh area, and he went to Hoosier and was beating up on the 10 scale world champion. Like, what?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
My first thought was Aiden Horn coming to LCRC and
Greg-
losing to
yeah.
Greg Harmer.
Yeah.
We kind of made that post earlier.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
But-
yeah. That's how. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, that's a good example right there. Right, you get your local dudes like, okay, yeah, well, we got fast dudes here too, but yeah, when those guys show up at Tar Car, we're like, oof, there's some pros here today, and yeah. I met Greg, by the way. He's a good dude.
He is.
Ultra fast.
Mhm.
Greg is very fast. Yep.
Yeah.
He's been running
Yeah.
his Tekno wheeler on carpet and like doing terrific with it. And I know Bob Walker Jr. was. I don't know if he still is, but I've been seeing Greg's race reports, and that's just impressive to me because I know I've never tried it, but
Wow.
I always heard how the Tekno wheeler wasn't too great on carpet, but works for Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I extracted as what I could for mine, and I did pretty well, like in a carpet series. That was probably the last time I raced it too. It was pandemic, but it was a carpet series, and it did pretty good. It was good on the turf. Larry's had turf. They just went to carpet this year, but it was pretty solid. I could hold my own, but obviously, you know, you have superior. You're battling against some superior,
Cars that are
design cars
designed for
specific for that. So. But I don't doubt it. It was good. I mean, I did pretty good with it. So I do miss my clay racing though. That's
Don't
that's
we
where
all?
I miss that. So
But
the car I ran the 410 outdoors, and that was still the best outdoor wheeler. That was when we were running mod in a series, like in D series. So that was a blast in itself. So, yeah.
I have one more question for you, Mr. Lopes. Besides everything we already talked about, what is one thing you hope to see in RC? Not this year, maybe not next year, but just one thing you hope to see, period, dot, in the hobby, or that the hobby does.
Oh man, this is gonna sound. I kind of I wish that I just heart I globally I just wish we were harmonized a little bit more as far as rules and whatnot. And everybody likes to, they have their own comments or their opinions on what your affiliation, whether it's Roar, you name it. But I wish we were a little more harmonized on stuff like that. And that with that being said, classes defined a little bit better as far as beginners um, to whether you're 50% ride or a pretty doggone good fast driver. I wish there was some kind of system, a global ranking system to where you're showing up to big races and you're not, just clobbering everybody over the head with your results, right? In the divisions you signed up for. Now this is a tricky, sticky topic because anybody can go to a track and have just a run of their lives, right? Right? I mean, you could have the best day of your life, right? I was just feeling it. My car was set up. I just, it's like golf and you're putting, you can see the lines, you're just bearing everything, right? It's the same thing with racing. You're in a mental good headspace. You're just killing it, right? I wish that somehow that the data or the results that these folks are doing or going through, like whether they're doing the race time entertainment series or some different series out west, that's kind of monitored and you move people up, right? Like after a victory or two, you move them up, I'm not talking pro level, but I think that's what I'd like to see. I think somehow just a mechanism, I guess you will, of progression and moving folks up because they just rise to the occasion. I think. I just don't think you should win a sportsman championship 10 years in a row at a race,
Mm-hmm.
example. And maybe a very, very bad example, but that's kind of my gist of things.
Gotcha. I completely agree with all that.
Yeah. I just think we're all over the board. And I think that nobody wants to step up and try to do something because they just have their own issues with an affiliation or whatnot. Nobody's perfect. I think I liked seeing what some folks were trying to stand up with Roar and that. And I think it can be accomplished. Um, I think I would like to, and just to build on that, getting back to my point, I may be getting too deep, but I do like the theory of trying to qualify into some bigger events, like at a national level, like have an X amount of events, qualify you into a larger race, and have two races like East and West, um, so to speak. And then if you want to go to the final race, and so be it, just incorporate it in some kind of other race that may be happening, right? Like Lefty was doing like that series, right? And it factored in several races. I think that'd be pretty cool though to try to somehow qualify yourself into some kind of event, an annual event or every other year event.
Well, it's funny.
That'd be pretty cool.
It's funny you mention that because right now, a local guy near us, I don't know if you know Sean Duffy, but he's doing that right now with a bunch of our carpet tracks in our region where he's taking already existing events. And some of these events are part of their own series too. But I forget how exactly it works. He calls it the PA State Carpet Championships, and I think there's 6 or 7 races in the series. And then if you win, you get a golden ticket, or like if you podium, you get a golden ticket to race. At the end of it, they're doing a big final 2-day at Richfield Raceway there in Central PA. But then, like, it's still gonna be all the normal classes, but then there's gonna be the championship class too. So, pretty much what you're saying on a much smaller scale, of course. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but other than that, I mean, I guess that's really what I had on the top of my head, really. You know, I've never ran sportsman. I went directly into intermediate. I'm no pro, but I also think that pros are pros, right? And you're not, I mean, if you want to go show up and run pro, good for you, right?
mm-hmm.
And see where you stack up. But if you're being lapped 2, 3 laps, then that's, I don't know about that. I mean, it's a fun that if you get thrown in with the pros. So, but I don't know. I just wish there was some kind of mechanism like they did that. That'd be kind of cool. It's just a matter of who wants to do it,
Yeah,
and who wants to step up, right? Because I think some people are a little bit more timid because they feel they're just going to get blasted on social media or whatever, right? It's you got to try some. You got to just try some stuff. Um, but that's really it. I would love to see some kind of indicators on lights. By the way, not qualifying position, but like if you're in the top three, you have like some kind of something you could put in your receiver and a quick mount to your body or something and have like a light, like on your car, some kind of indicator that you are a top car. So the traffic in the field know who you are. When I go to big races, they don't know Mike Lopes. I mean, they don't, they may not know by names and they certainly don't know, the directors don't know you by your car. They just only call you out by your name. No other drivers know you typically, unless you really, really get around, right? I, I would hope they were coming up close with some kind of technology like that. That would be pretty rad.
well, even with
I
like
really,
the
I would
light
really
up
like that.
antennas, we already that have been coming out. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the technology is there. It just needs to be, wrote. But like, I believe we have the technology to put it in the software with live time, where perhaps it could even be automatic in some degree. You know what I mean?
hmm
I don't know how
Yeah.
much that would
Because
cost, but
yeah, and take for example like LCRC, right? Everybody kind of knows each other.
mm-hmm.
They're pretty much common folks. They race. It's really good turnout and all that. But at the big events, again, you don't know each other's names, and the directors, sometimes will call out the car color. But in the end, nobody really knows that, and they don't hear that. They're visual; may see it, though. I think they'd be more inclined to see that. I think you would probably get a little bit better racing out of that deal, to where you may not have some back marker just muck up what have a great race brewing, right? That could be just some crazy great ending, a good battle, right? You don't want to be that guy that takes out the top cars, and you may not know that they are. Even if some people just don't realize that they may be getting gapped or lapped, or some people just are oblivious, right? They're just in their zone. They just want to drive.
Right.
So I think I'd like to see that. That's really
That's an
what I got.
incredible idea.
I agree to that. I see that in the intermediate classes all the time. People just don't realize they're getting lapped.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's tough as a director. I mean, yeah, this is nothing towards any directors or any specific events or anything, but that's just my, my vision. If I could do something like that, I would. Dude, the technology we have nowadays, we're tuning. If somebody told me in 1990, whatever, when I started this, that I'd be able to tune a speed control with a mobile phone, I'd,
Or dyno tune your nitro motor.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I probably would have laughed hysterically and probably got in trouble or something. But yeah.
There's
So,
mobile phones? What do you mean?
Yeah.
right.
Touch
right.
screen?
But I don't know. I'm kind of curious what the next advancements are going to be. I really am too, because we have tons of stuff to our fingertips.
Yeah, we're on the cusp of some really good stuff right now, I think. It's just, like you said, Mike, it's, whoever it is going to be stepping up to execute these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like if you look at Live RC, all the data's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
There's just some programming and some antennas or whatever device and like.
well, I mean, I'm talking like statistics for like just your national ranking.
Oh
right?
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Like all that data is there. It just takes somebody that knows databasing to write a script to do it. I say that like it's easy. I mean, it's not necessarily easy, and it's incredibly time consuming. But somebody out there knows how to code, and somebody can do it. It's just a matter of fact of doing it.
It's hard to base
RC Garage does this.
when it's hard to base when like races aren't mandatory or there's on the same weekend there's a 300 entry race in California, there's a 300 entry race in Michigan, there's a 300 entry race in Pennsylvania, there's a 300 entry race in Florida with all heavy hitters. So it's like that the person that runs the top 25 in the world, they really have some math figured out, and I think that system works. But
the top 25
like-
only counts when you have so much
Exactly.
percent of the top 25.
exactly, that's what I'm getting at.
Though. Okay.
But how it's hard to find that ranking without having standardized racing to go back on how Mike was saying.
Yeah.
With affiliations, we kind of need to get on the same page.
Yeah, the garage has a lot of stuff plugged in, and if you pay or subscribe, you can see your ranking kind of with versus everybody, like in Spruggy, let's just say, and all that. Yeah, the data's there. I mean, we have the technology. So,
I just grabbed my old M12 out of my closet. One of the coolest things back in the day I thought Live RC did was you could print out a QR code. I have it stuck to the bottom of my radio. But what it did is when you walked up to their tablets or whatever, they had barcode scanners.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you're at an event, you could scan your barcode and it pulls up all of your information. Like all the races you were in, all the heats you were in, everything.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was really, really cool.
Well,
Yeah.
They used to do the printouts of at the bigger races, the printouts of your time slip. Taylor, did you ever have that?
Oh, yeah.
The what? I'm sorry.
You'd get a time slip for your laps, like in Motorama. You would go down to the computer underneath the driver's stand, type in your name, and then click print, and it was like a literal receipt, and it would print out like just your laps. Before
I didn't know that.
Yeah, before it got standardized, just to use your phone and get on the interwebs. But
I mean, it was probably like a dot matrix printer too when it came out as well.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah, I remember like the first 2 years I went to Motorama, it was like that. But
yeah.
Uncle Mike, Taylor, you guys have anything else?
No,
I don't.
Real quick,
I'm out.
I want to do our driver of the week segment. I got my own shout out. So, I got to use the thing I made after I find it. All right.
And a 3 and a 2 and a. I'm just gonna...
All right. This time for this week's driver of the week presented by ACS Hobbies. It goes to Colton Fernari with his amazing performance down at Beast of Ease. For anyone that was watching, he was able to win all 3 classes he was in, and he took home the Triple Crown, which is the high honor of that race. I was watching. His cars look dialed. He's a fast kid. Colton.
Yep.
Great job. Just wanted to give him some flowers for that. Oh,
congrats.
Soundboard applause.
I mean,
Soundboard applause.
it's not easy, man. That's for sure. I don't care who you're battling with to get first and all those. It's not easy.
Oh
You
yeah,
need everything to work your way. That's
yeah,
good for him.
definitely. And he definitely had the Mad Matty was there, Jamie Gregg was there. You know, it was definitely
Yeah.
stiff competition. But
Jamie's fast
oh yeah.
too.
Without further ado,
Um,
I got nothing else. Lopes, do you have anything you'd like to add on to anything?
yeah, could I make a quick plug real quick
Yeah.
to something that we're standing up this year? Before it's Chris Norlock and Nick, we did the series and it was running for a decade or so. Huge turnouts, giving back to the racers completely, everything beyond cost or whatever, above except for cost and whatnot. So it was a give back to racer series and whatnot, all that. Some of the best racing I've been part of, for a long time, right? So we're standing that up again this year. Myself, Kyle, Nathaniel Bentley's helping us out a little bit, little Tony Sosnowitz as well. But we're standing this 2026 D series back up. It's going to start at Beyond the Creek in Michigan in May 30th. Then we go down to Finish Line in Indiana. And then we're going to take it to Idlewild RC in Kentucky. That's in July, and then we go back to Michigan at KMS. We started Beyond the Creek in Michigan. Then basically we go to Indiana, then Kentucky, at Idlewild, and then we go back to the track, one of the old school tracks in Michigan, South Michigan, um, in August, and then we finish at Tarkar in September. So this is going to be we're standing this up with just basically new promotion team. That's us. Our goal is to give back to the racers as much as possible, beyond our cost, which shouldn't be other than directing and lights maybe or whatever. Um, that's our mission. And again, we're traveling around, so we hope that there's already tons of interest. So that's something we're doing this summer. We're lining up sponsors. I did notice, um, times have changed. Finding sponsors is a little more. It's tough. I get it. Before, but again, it was just a killer series that they gave back to the racers, and that's our goal, and that's what we're doing. So again, we started in May, and we end in September at Tarkar. So just throwing that out there. It's the series. You can find that on Facebook. Yeah, so we're kind of looking forward to that. It's kind of a new thing that we're kind of doing. I've never really stood this up, but it should be fun.
Heck yeah,
So,
that sounds like an awesome series.
yep, yep. So we got some good sponsors on board so far, and again, we're gonna try to just do what we can. And again, we're not here to make a dime off it. We're giving back as much. We're gonna use buying power and give prizes and whatnot back to all the racers and whatever we can do. So yeah, and I appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully, I didn't you know completely bomb on that note, but other than that,
No.
I appreciate you guys. It's a great thing you guys are doing, by the way. You guys know
Thank
what
you.
you're doing. You're doing good, and you guys are getting the word out about our hobby. And even for the newcomers, you're bringing some. If I was a newbie, I would definitely be watching some podcasts, right? Just getting the kind of the general gist of some things and whatnot. So you guys, kudos to you guys. You put a lot of time into that, and time is people don't realize how much time you probably do put into this stuff. So I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Yeah. Yep.
Any?
Mike. You're a great
Mike.
guest.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Mike, is there anybody that you want to thank on your personal side before we sign
Oh,
off?
yeah. I mean, my wife's just huge. I mean, she's been there for me forever. She took care of me and whatnot lately. My sponsors, of course, Tekno, long time, AKA Tekin, VRP Clinic, Larry's Performance RC. Those are my specific sponsors, along with just my friends, my teammates, you guys. What you guys do for me is on a day to day. It's just make me look better as a manager. As a fellow racer, I'm happy. I'm happy to be on the same track with you guys too. So no, I appreciate everything. So yeah, good stuff.
Well, thank you for joining. I really appreciate you coming on, especially with
Yeah.
the short notice it ended up being.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be my card if somebody gives me a bunch of crap for like how I did. But I'll be like, hey, this was a pretty short lead time.
Add that
So
into the disclaimer.
Yeah.
You got 90 minutes to prep.
Yep.
yeah, so, but right on.
I'd like to thank course, ACS Hobbies. We have a new sponsor now, just established today, Nitro Caddy. Dennis Brew. He has the Nitro Caddy, obviously the Nitro. I don't know how else to describe it. He named it perfectly. You know, the device you
Nitro
put your
Caddy.
car, your starter box, the glow igniter, the fuel, your radio, everything. Check him out online. He also has the Bump Master, the plate for your starter box, so you can never get it wrong, and the stop stick.
The plates are killer.
Got
Those
one
are
right
killer.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get some marketing out for that because he gave me a setup to give to somebody and they're loving them. So I'm like, he owes me. He owes me a post about this stuff too. Those are really nice. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the stop stick
Arrows.
too. He has for stopping the nitro engines rather than your thumb or whatever device. So, and he said we talked to him today. He said he's working on a couple other things he has in the pipeline. So keep watch for new products. Check them out online.
NitroCaddy.com.
NitroCaddy.com. Yeah. Uncle Mike and Taylor, take it away.
Yeah.
LCRC. And I'm sorry, I'm just
gonna
jumping
talk over Taylor.
Kappa.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna talk over him. No, go ahead,
Nope.
Taylor. Go ahead.
All right.
ahead.
Well, I would like to thank LCRC, Mugen, MT Designs, Mike Treharn that paints my bodies. You said Nitro Caddy, so I'll say Bump Master, and Toby, my mate, that's flying over the pond right now from 46RC. That's all I got.
So, everyone covered a lot of everything already. But Tekno, Tekin, MKS, J Concepts, for my personal sponsors. But yeah, be awesome. Thank you all for listening. We love you all. And this is what, episode 34?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Well, episode 34.
This
closing out.
is the third episode we recorded in 7 days, so we're pumping them out right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're about to get busy. But
Yep.
that's good.
thanks again, Mike Lopes, for joining us. And
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
we will see you at the track sometime.
We'll see you soon.
Good night,
Take
everyone.
care.